Hey everyone, Kat here with a new tale about Pecharunt and Spiritomb. We know Pecharunt fought Ogerpon and rolled into a forest centuries ago, but someone must have found it before Mochi Mayhem, right? That's what this little podfic is about. Our protagonist is a tracker named Indigo who's gotten himself bound to the odd keystone. He's heard rumors about Pecharunt, but he'd like to learn more. And in this case, a shiny purple fish might just help him do that. Let's get started. In general, the Cobalt coastlands were much warmer than Indigo's home in the Alabaster Icelands. But on chilly nights like this one, getting close to the surf with the wind blowing and the starless sky threatening to pour the rain any second, well, the coastlands could certainly be brutal in their own way. But since Indigo was trying to connect with the ghost-type noble, it didn't make much sense to do this in daylight. He pulled out his flute and placed his hand over the end of it, a renewed appreciation for the soothing notes it drew forth. In an instant, the water bubbled and a dark magenta smoke rose up to form the ghostly body of the noble Basculegion. Indigo leapt onto the Pokemon's back right away. The creature, while not as finicky as Braviary, did tend to vanish when it had no passengers and got bored of the physical world. "Excuse me, your lordship," he said, trying to be extra polite. "I have a question for you." Basculegion bucked, a nod for him to go ahead, even as they drifted through darker waters. Indigo held tight as he could. It felt like gripping sand. "You see, a friend of mine remembered this small purple Pokemon that came through Hisui a long time ago. She thinks it was a pretty dangerous and powerful ghost type. And it was found lying in the woods. That's about all I know, but I'm trying to learn more. Can you help me out at all?" Basculegion gurgled in reply. Much to his disappointment, being bound to the odd keystone had not given Indigo the ability to understand Pokemon language. But he did seem to have a stronger feel for the gist of what Pokemon were saying than before. The noble found his tidbit intriguing, but had nothing much to add to it. "I guess I wouldn't expect you to know more yourself," Indigo said. "But maybe you can point me to a ghost who does?" Basculegion gave a much higher-pitched gurgle this time and picked up speed, cutting a sharp line through the water. Apparently, the Pokemon got a spark of inspiration. Up ahead, Indigo spotted a large cluster of fish-like Pokemon gathered together. Remoraid, by the looks of it. Basculegion was headed right for them. Did it plan to attack? Indigo tensed up. Something sparkled just beneath the surface, and he reached for his Raichu's Pokeball. At the same time, several large raindrops hit Indigo's shoulder. It would not be safe out here for long. "Ah, my old Remoraid," sighed a voice in his head. "This one must be related to it. Oh, that does bring back some memories." Indigo smirked. So there was a ghost that knew more about that strange Pokemon. Pecharunt? Yes, he recalled its name now. His mind filled with more memories from the ghost he'd linked to. Basculegion moved in so Indigo could capture the sparkling Remoraid. Unlike the others, he saw it with a soft lavender hue, like the petals of a flower. That brought back some memories, too. When the ghost was alive, she'd lived as a young woman named Shell. She and her brother didn't have much, but they were self-sufficient, not something many people in her village could claim. So, whenever there was a child that lost their home or family, the two siblings often took them in, at least until they could find a more stable home. One such child they took in was named Vessa. She was odd and told fantastic stories, and she adored Pokemon. One day, while Shell was taking inventory of their supplies and her brother was building a new shelf, Vessa came back from the woods with yet another new Pokemon friend. It was small and unassuming. She called it Pecharunt. The two siblings told her it was very nice, but they had work to do. Vessa shrugged and walked into the house, whispering to her new companion.
"Don't worry about them. We are going to learn some stuff."
Shell's brother went back to rebuilding the shelf, but Shell found herself intrigued. She coincidentally had to restock their linen supply and followed behind Vessa to do so. While no room in the house was truly private, there was a lot of movement about the place, and one could often find an empty room if they waited long enough. Vessa slipped into one such bedroom. It had 2 bunks and a lovely ceramic basin decorated with paintings of elegant, far-off creatures like Goldeen or Dragonair. The basin held water and Shell's Remoraid. It was a tiny thing, not even a foot long, so it was the only Pokemon that fit inside. The children thought the basin looked quite fancy with any sort of fish in it, and one of them had even sculpted a much smaller clay look-alike. This sat on a small table between the bunks, holding a stalk of hyacinth, whose flowers had all closed up. Vessa took a seat on the bottom bunk, and Shell moved past the cracked door so as not to be seen looking in on her. But she did keep a listen.
It's really good we found each other,
Vessa said to her Pokemon friend.
I'm not like other people, you know? I can do some amazing stuff. See those little flowers? They're ultra tight, right?
Shell began to stack the sheets and blankets with absurd slowness. There was a pause as presumably the little Pokemon gave Vessa some affirmation.
Now,
Vessa replied,
watch this.
As she said it, a sweet floral scent floated through the hallway, the perfume of a warm spring day. But it couldn't be. Shell scolded herself for being silly and quickly finished unloading the linens. Children pretended all sorts of wild things, and she'd let herself get wrapped up in them.
Pecharunt taught me that one,
Vessa giggled.
And Remoraid here showed me how to make water for it. Now, I wonder, what can I learn from you?
Still chastising herself, Shell walked past the door once again, on her way to do more chores. But she couldn't resist a quick glance into the room. The small flowers on the stalk of hyacinth had all opened to a full bloom. That'll wrap up this story. The next one will be Shiny Kricketot. And since I already did Kricketune, it'll be the last shiny from that evolution line. I've been considering doing some giveaways with these shinies. I don't really have a need to keep them all. Mostly I'm just excited to find out who I'm writing about next. Anyway, I'll put some thought into that and hopefully have more info on the next Hisui video. Until then, happy reading and happy training!